just really quick, and I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us for the update. I know a lot of the information's been coming fast and furious to you. I know a lot of it is confusing and changing. So we are trying to provide as much regular updates as we can to you, whether it's through webinars or newsletters or just outreach. And again, always feel free. Our team is working remotely, but they certainly are working hard and here to take your calls. So never hesitate to reach out. You can call the office line and you'll just get routed to one of our team members. Just as an FYI, we have coming up a call this week with NJHRA Foods, who will be talking also about doing kind of getting in the grocery game, which we've done with Performance Food Group last week, and we'll talk to NJHRA Foods this week. And then next week, we'll be having a webinar with Echo Lab to talk about enhanced sanitation practices, and with an eye towards reopening, what does that look like? So be just on the lookout for our emails. I do encourage you, if you're not getting them, check your spam or clutter, because we have been sending them out on a pretty regular basis. And if you've accidentally unsubscribed, which we know you would only do accidentally, so you might not be getting everything that you need. So just give you a quick update while we wait for Sean, if he is not on, to just go through with you where we are with, oh, there you are. I just see you. Hello, sir. So what a handsome face there. So just going to give a quick update, Sean, before I introduce you, just to talk about New Jersey has completed two of its 4 phased of our reopen plan. The first plan that we did was our Safe Stay, which was centered around guidelines and reopening for the lodging industry. And that was sent to the governor's office last week. Today, our board just approved our Safe Dining, which is for restaurants and bars. And that is being sent out today to the legislature. I believe, Sean, I sent a copy over to the National Restaurant Association. And that provides a phased-in approach to reopening the hospitality industry, specifically restaurants and bars. And what does that look like over the next several weeks to a couple months? Timing, unfortunately, we don't know about, and I'll touch quickly on what the governor said yesterday. The other 2 is our Safe Celebration, which is geared specifically to the wedding and banquet industry, because we know that that is going to be a concern of having 200, 300 person wedding. So we are coming up with a plan that is being spearheaded by our banquet venue members. And the last one that we're going to be doing is called Safe Fun, which is geared for the amusement parks and attractions along the Jersey Shore. So those are our 4 plans. 2 are submitted, and the governor will be announcing his task force. I will be on the business part of his task force, as well as the speaker is doing his own task force. So I'll be on that as well, representing our industry. So just want to talk a little bit about what the governor said. And yesterday, to be honest with you, I was a little taken back with his messaging. It seemed like we were taking steps backwards instead of forwards. And I don't know if that was intentional or what, but the reality is that our industry, and this is the message we've conveyed, other than the healthcare industry, no other industry is set up for safety and sanitation than our industry. And I think that that's the message. And that's what our plan lays out, is how we are so well equipped to deal with these issues and to make sure that our guests and our employees re-enter back into our restaurants, our hotels, and our properties feeling safe and secure. And that's what we want. And, as we look towards reopening I'm hoping the next few weeks to a month, that we will see that these plans will come to fruition. So I will be sharing them with the membership at large for you, and this is a footprint and a guideline for you, but of course we always welcome your input. We have our ServSafe team is ready, standing by with great products. Up until April 30th, your staff, if you do have staff working, can take a food handler at no cost. It's really a minimal charge, but we do feel that will be mandated in the state. So I encourage, if you have staff, to take advantage of that now. The ServSafe team has also put together a COVID training program, which I encourage you to take advantage of, as well as ServSafe Serve Success, which is that's actually quite expensive, and right now they're offering that for free. So certainly encourage all of you to take advantage of what you can, and you can get that through the National Restaurant Association website, or we have a link on our website. So that's really it. We've been working fast and furious, and I have to say, thank God for our national partners. We have great partners in Washington, the American Hotel and Lodging Association, the Asian American Hotel Owners, and then, of course, the National Restaurant Association, who is our guest speaker today, is the Executive Vice President, Sean Kennedy, who his team has been nothing short of amazing through this process, whether it's advocating for us with Congress, the White House, Treasury, addressing our concerns, knowing that that's a heavy lift. And his team has also been really great about providing updates. We started off with, I think, a daily call. I think now we're down to a few times a week, but I reach out, and whether, even if Sean, it's after hours and Sean's practicing a new cocktail of the day, or
Yes.
he's at his office, he's always willing to be a great partner. So thank you, Sean. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mary Lou. It's great to be with you, and sort of right back at you. Mary Lou, there are a lot of different SRA models in this country. Some are some are sort of operators that are armchair lobbyists, and then there's Mary Lou. Mary Lou makes our job a lot easier in Washington because she has the relationships, she knows the policy, and most importantly, she understands the intersection between policy and your business models and what it means in New Jersey. And that's been absolutely critical for us, because elected officials have a lot of ADD, and what they need really is someone who can distill a really complicated set of facts or a really complicated business model into something that even they can understand. And Mary Lou's been a great partner for us to work with on things like that. And then, as chair of the Council of State Restaurant Associations, she has to think even sort of larger than New Jersey as far as how do we harness the collective power of the state, of the SRAs, to advance a common interest. New Jersey is one of the tougher states, obviously. A lot of bad ideas, it seems, come from New Jersey, or you're the first to, or they come in. So we pay a lot of attention to what's going on. We want to make sure we can work with you, not only from a New Jersey perspective, but actually because if an idea takes root in New Jersey, it very likely is going to move westward. It's great to be with you. Thank you for letting me join you today. I want to give you a quick update just on how did we get to where we are as far as legislatively and the sort of nightmare that is PPP, and what is the course that we're all pursuing together moving forward. As you all know, I view when the restaurant industry began to unravel on Friday the 13th of March, that was when you began to see banquets, a lot of larger groups were all falling by the wayside. Dine-in was beginning to take a dip. By March 16th, I believe it was Hoboken was the first city to shut down operations system-wide. And over the next few days, you saw that virtually nationwide. On March 18th, 2 days later, the National Restaurant Association, in conjunction with Mary Lou and other SRAs, wrote a letter to Congress and the White House saying, we are going to be uniquely hurt by this, and we're the nation's second largest employer. We need a restaurant-specific recovery plan. We proposed a recovery fund. We asked for action on business interruption insurance. We asked for tax credits that would allow us to, when we were able to weather the storm, if we could weather it, that we could reopen and have some means of being profitable. What Congress told us pretty quickly is they were not going to give us that. They said, we are creating a larger program for all small businesses, and we'll make sure that you're a part of it. We said, okay, if you're going to do that, you need to expand eligibility to make sure that the restaurant industry as a whole can participate in this. They said, okay. So they created the Paycheck Protection Program and expanded eligibility so that restaurants of even ones, as long as you have more than 500 per unit, you were eligible for these funds. There were three things that were really wrong with it from the beginning. One is that suddenly the nation's second largest private sector employer, is plunked into a recovery fund that's limited in size. It was $349 billion. We're competing against each other for it. And then we're competing against hardware stores, nail salons, shoe stores, everybody else who has a much smaller economic impact, but we're all scrambling for those same dollars. Another problem with it, of course, is just the way it's set up. PPP is the Republican version of unemployment insurance. They use the restaurants as a pass-through. So even if your employee is furloughed, you give them a paycheck, you keep them at home, and they're not on unemployment anymore. The Democratic approach is to enhance unemployment benefits. The second largest problem is that both of those programs were in the same bill. So you have this ironic situation where if you're in a state that offers generous unemployment insurance, like New Jersey, you have situations where it is a better deal for you financially, if you're an employee, to stay on unemployment rather than come back to the job that many of you want your folks to come back into. So one of the conditions of PPP, of course, is you have to bring in virtually your entire payroll, your entire employee base. You can't do that if the unemployment side, because if the unemployment side of things is such that folks are saying, look, I love my job, but I love my family a little bit more, and this is a better deal for them. They're not being lazy, they're doing what's in their best economic interest. And I respect that, but it's created this miserable problem for us. And then last is that, again, we are the second largest employer. We need a restaurant-specific solution. What we've been doing on PPP, we've worked with our SRA partners and Mary Lou to identify what are the three biggest things that need to be changed. The first is just when the covered period kicks in. As you know, it's an 8-week shot clock to spend the money. The shot clock starts basically within 10 days of you getting the loan. All of you are basically, you're either a skeletal staff or you're closed, you're shuttered right now. So paying people who are not coming in is not really the assistance that you need right now. You can use 25% of it for rent, so that's not nothing, but it's a risk for you. If you can't bring those employees back in because of unemployment, because you can't find them, because they don't want to come into work yet, if they won't go back onto payroll, that means that you now no longer have a grant, you have another loan, you have another debt that you have to pay. The second thing that we would like to change the covered period so that it starts when restaurants are able to come back online. So not now, but in mid-June, mid-July, whenever you're allowed to, whenever the state gives you the go-ahead, the shot clock needs to begin closer to that period. Second thing we want to change is the breakdown of how the funds can be used. Right now it's 75% payroll, 25% rent. That's helpful, but we're all going to be coming back online at a very slow pace. Social distancing, you're not going to need all of you won't be using all of your tables, all of your servers, perhaps all of your kitchen staff. You need more flexibility, and it cannot be 75% payroll. It needs to be closer to 50%. And then the last is when the loan has to be repaid. Congress got that one right. Congress said that under PPP, if it did turn into a loan, that you had 10 years to pay it back, up to 10 years. Treasury interpreted that to say 2. We called them on that and said, why in God's name would you make it 2 years? And they said, we don't think that you'd want a loan on the books that much longer. And we sort of scratched our heads and said, look, we are not going to be able to pay these loans in 2 years. So we're still going back and forth on that. Congress passed PPP was part of what we call phase 3. That was Congress's third coronavirus response. Passed a bill last week, as you know, that increased funding for it. We call it phase 3.5. Increased funding for PPP, gave it a new lease on life. Those funds are probably going to be spent in about 4 or 5 days. So it's going to be a quick run. What Congress didn't do is make any changes to the way PPP was administered. We were very vocal and very loud and a little bit pushy in being the first industry to say, love that PPP is out there. It's not working for the unique business model that's restaurants and the unique path to recovery that we have ahead of us. We had a few bricks thrown at us because right now, whenever we do calls with the White House, the first thing they open up with is, that PPP, it's something else, isn't it? And we have to politely say, it's something else, but it's not the something else that we need right now as the nation's second largest employer. So if you woke up today and you looked at everything, you would say, where are we? We have a program that doesn't really work for the restaurant industry. No one has lost more jobs and more revenue than the restaurant industry. Congress is going to come back in a few weeks. What are the next steps? There are two things that we're pursuing. One is we are still banging on Treasury to change the rules of PPP in a way that will provide real relief. And Mary Lou's been critical to this because she's been banging on Menendez. He's the wrong party for this White House, but he still is he's very loud, and he's very parochial, as we know. So getting him fired up, and he's reached out to us to ask for more information. So those kinds of relationships, that partnership's been really helpful. So we're trying to get him fully activated. We're trying to do, one is to get the administration just to change it on their own. Then part of that is if we can get Congress to change it through the phase 4 legislation, so be it. But PPP is an imperfect solution for us. A lot of restaurants have it. We want to make sure that if you have it, you can take full advantage of it. But what we really need is a restaurant-specific solution. The survey data that we released last week, and the New Jersey numbers were bleak. The national numbers were bleak. 8 million jobs lost, $80 billion in lost revenue. $240 billion is forecast through the end of the year, even as we gradually reopen. No one has lost more jobs and more revenue than this industry, and we collectively are the second largest private sector employer. That needs to be an alarm bell, a loud bell for Congress right now. And that's honestly what we're pushing back with. So we're saying there needs to be, we unveiled last Monday a blueprint for recovery. It creates a $240 billion fund administered by Treasury through the IRS that on a quarter-by-quarter basis looks at what your revenue was for the preceding year, year over year, and tries to make you whole based on that. It's simple. It's not that complicated, but it needs to be focused on us. We are fine with the fact that Congress focused on the airline industry in the last bill. They gave them $25 billion in direct cash. We're larger, respectfully, we're larger than them. We are more important than them. We have a larger economic impact, and we deserve a similar approach. So that's what our big push is going to be. Last week, the big news of the day was Shake Shack, Ruth's Chris, Potbelly, and other larger companies that had received PPP loans. And the notion becomes, well, did they need it? Ruth's Chris they've shuttered for good 20% of their restaurants. So if you've got a Ruth's Chris logo on your uniform, you're hurting right now. And you are probably really going to get that PPP loan. And when they would, you know, at least you've got some money coming in for 8 weeks. That's out now. They gave the money back. Shake Shack said they didn't need the money, which causes a problem for us because it's Shake Shack. I personally don't think that Shake Shack probably realized that PPP wasn't going to work for them, took the PR route of saying, we're going to give it back, we don't need it. But it creates a dynamic that says, well, maybe the industry isn't suffering as much as we think it is. If PPP isn't needed, then why do we need if it's not needed for all restaurants, then maybe we don't need a restaurant-specific solution. It also uncomfortably puts us in a position where you have chains versus against large independents versus small independents. We don't need that. The reason why the airline industry, and I used to work for the airline industry before coming to this industry, the reason why the airline industry got what they did is that they were unified. It didn't matter if you were a small regional jet airline, if you were United Airlines, if you were Delta. They all came in with the common message of saying, our business is diminished and we need an airline-specific solution. We have to have the same thing. It is so noisy in Congress right now because every entity is coming forth with their hat in hand saying we need to be specific here. We need something specific for us. The drone industry says they need a bailout. The footwear industry says they need a bailout because gyms are closed. We are really good at being loud, but where we really come in is just the number of people that we have, what we represent. The airlines, it was 9 airlines really put this together, but they're really powerful. We do not have the individual power of one individual airline, but collectively, we are so much bigger. We did a grassroots activation with you through Mary Lou when phase 3 came out. Our goal was 100,000 engagements on Capitol Hill within 5 days. We hit it in less than 24 hours. We're at 400,000 engagements right now. Since this has started, we opened up a new, we activated a new website called restaurantsact.com, restaurants plural, act.com. And that is sort of our one-stop shop for grassroots action. See state-specific numbers for any region of the country, find out what the job loss is, find out what the path to recovery is going to be. All the Congress, importantly, it has the pull you to log in, give your information, voice is heard with members of Congress. We have to be, this is it. Phase 4 is probably going to be the last bill that they're going to do. And it's unclear even how, if that's even going to come to pass. Congress is already starting to move into partisan corners. We can either fix PPP, which we're going to fight like hell to do it, or we can get a restaurant industry specific solution. We're going to fight like hell as much as we can on that front as well. We are joined at the hip, notwithstanding the new hip that Mary has in working, because we bring to the table is, unlike the airlines, they are national. We are hyper local. Bob Menendez, when he goes into town, he sees that the restaurants are either closed, he does takeout, he sees what the operations are like. How do we leverage that? And then one last thing, and I'll kick it back to Mary Lou, is we're also looking at when we come back online, what other things should we be thinking about? A lot of the concessions that have been made on things like off-premise alcohol sales, it's not a huge deal, things like alcohol, but it's something. We've gotten some gains. How do we fight together to make sure that we keep those? If we want to independently allow delivery of cocktails, that would have taken us years and a lot of money to spend to get through. Now that we have things like that, how can we preserve the concessions that state governors have done for us now and lock them in? Because as we come back online, we're going to need higher revenue because we're going to have fewer customers. We look forward to working with you on that front. And then last, we're very concerned about just when Congress and state legislatures are in a post-corona response period, what kinds of things are they going to take away? I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, and Mary Lou, we were talking about this earlier this week, is we paid sick leave. What do we do to make it what will it be to be a mandate? You're seeing issues in New York State right now, or New York City rather, on the difficulty in firing people, in laying off people. Even you have to prove just cause if you want to do it. President Trump has said, and I see Adrian Stevens noting the 100% meal deductibility. President Trump has called for that. It definitely will help. It doesn't help us in the recovery part right now, but it definitely helps us in the stimulus. We have a lot of ideas where we're pushing for that. We got QUIP through in the last bill, so that's going to be significant. But we're going to need a lot more. But most importantly, even though you all have been great in telling your friends and employees to call Menendez, call your House members, work through Mary Lou, we have to do it one more time because we are really close. We're not there yet. I'll stop talking for a minute, Mary Lou. If you have questions or if I can do anything to help answer anything, I'm happy to stay.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure we do have some questions, and I see Adrian's got he's got a few things there, but yeah, I mean, I see some of the stuff coming out of New York, which is alarming, and post-COVID is going to be really alarming because we see now the progressive agenda start churning up. It only took them 5 weeks to start figuring out what they needed, but I think we definitely, and I do want to reach out and reiterate to all of you, you've gotten our email blast about taking action. So I seriously encourage you, if you haven't, let us know. We'll resend it to you because we did it a couple times. There was a couple different calls to action. So make sure you're reaching out, whether it's even your state legislator, and ask them to reach out to our federal delegation. They all, Senator Sweeney, who's the Senate president, has a great relationship with Norcross. And, Jeannie Cretell is on, and she's a National Restaurant Association board member, and she's got a great relationship with Menendez and Booker. And so anybody that's the goal, because they come to your restaurants to eat. I guess one of my concerns, Sean, is some states are already starting to open up. So we see like Texas is opening and Georgia's opening. And so if you had heard the governor's press conference yesterday, I joked today on our board call, I think we're going to be open in 2022. So when, the New Jersey restaurants are still, everybody, the rest of the country is living large and the restaurants are open and doing great. New York, New Jersey, maybe Connecticut, I don't know, are sitting here and we're still shuttered. Is there still going to be a desire to help regionally? Or is that, because we know that right now the state can't afford 2 pencils. So can we look for some regional support as we see the onus is going to be on us for a longer period of time?
Absolutely. And it's one of the things we're even looking at things, what we put in our most recent proposal and you can read about it at restaurantsact.com. We're going to need greater tax deductions, even our tax credits, even things like when we buy protective gear for our employees. There are going to be a lot of new mandates that we put onto the restaurants to come back online. New outlays of cash when you have very little on hand. We want to make sure the tax credits are refundable so that even if you have, because presumably you won't have a lot of profits, let's at least make sure you can get that money back from Treasury quickly. But we need to, it all goes again to the fact that we can't just be lumped in with other businesses. I see a few comments that have been posted. I want to make one thing clear. We want any changes made to PPP to be retroactive. So if you've got a PPP loan right now and you're worried about the covered period, it needs to be retroactive. The only thing that we don't think will be retroactive is the loan terms of repayment. I personally don't see Congress and Treasury abrogating a valid contract signed into between a bank and a restaurant. If you signed a contract saying you're going to pay the loan in 2 years, I think it's tough. It'd be a tough push for Congress to say we're going to change that to 10 years. That said, the goal should be, let's make it a term where you don't need to repay it, where you can meet the qualifications and it can be, and the whole loan is forgiven. Changing the covered period, changing 75-25, doing those retroactively would absolutely do it. One person commented on business interruption insurance. It's also something we're very focused on. Mary Lou and I, this is a common topic that we've discussed. The insurance industry is very focused on how to put the entire onus on Congress and on the federal government. What we are trying to do with the National Restaurant Association is we don't want to bankrupt the insurance industry, but they need to have some skin in the game. What you learned from Superstorm Sandy is that if you just rely on the federal government to create this new system, the money is going to be slow, corruption and misuse is going to be rife, and you're not going to get the relief that you need. We need to approach it more like flood insurance, where your insurance company, you're still dealing with your insurance company. We need that army of claims adjusters involved in this, or we're not going to see it go forward. And I was just looking to see if there are any other comments. I don't see any other comments I need to speak to, but it's we are working on. Sorry, someone talked about the employee retention tax credit. It's a big push as well, and it's something that is in our package. We need to see it expanded, and we're going to continue pushing on that front as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, I thank you so much. I know that you guys are reaching out. Is there any immediate asks that you have right now of us in this group that what we can be doing?
So the Congress is going to be back in session next week. The Senate comes in next week. House was supposed to come in next week. They just announced an hour ago that they're not going to come in next week. I think just the concerns are 435 people in one small room pressing the same voting button might not be a safe approach. So they are not next week. They'll be in sometime after that. But really, it's to press that there needs to be a phase 4 bill, because not everyone agrees that there does need to be, that there need to be changes in PPP. But we need to communicate that PPP is putting a very small Band-Aid on a very large wound. It may for a small amount of time. It is not going to begin to make you whole. And when you have to reopen at 50% capacity, PPP is not going to be the lifeline that you need. What I've been telling folks on interviews is, I get that Congress needs to make sure that folks have a paycheck in March, but we need to make sure that they have a job in December. And if Congress doesn't do it right, there will not be jobs in December. And last, the employees that you have, they're not going to be reabsorbed into other parts of the community. We employ such a wide range of people from so many socioeconomic backgrounds, so many different levels of education. This isn't something that's really portable, where they suddenly, it's portable because you can get a job at any other restaurant unless restaurants aren't hiring. And so they're going to have a much larger concern on their hands if they don't get it right now.
Okay. I have a couple questions here. Can we use part of the 75% money and send the rest back? Will that part be forgiven?
Well, no, you have to, it's no. And we've gotten that. You need to basically bring back your payroll. You need to bring your employees all back online. And if you do that, you can spend 75% of your loan on the payroll, and you can spend 25% on the rest. but you can't sort of game the system and bring back some of them and bring them back on. And no, it's sort of it's a bit of an all or nothing.
This question is for you and me. My dog's choking over here.
Tend to your dog.
Any news on EIDL loans, or Mary Lou, the EDA loans that were applied for on Monday? Yeah, I mean, EDA loans were up and shut down. New Jersey EDA had a couple programs, and they were oversubscribed in a very short period of time. So I don't know. I think they're coming out with an entrepreneurial loan that's active now, but I think there's more going to be coming out of New Jersey EDA. But on EIDL, Sean, anything?
EIDL got another infusion of cash, so it should still be operating. I'd be curious, Mary Lou, as you talk to your membership more, we'd love to get your take on how EIDL is working. They've been smaller loans, and they're loans, and what we really don't need to do with restaurants is burden them with another layer of debt when the government has created an awful lot of debt by its unilateral action. So be curious to hear from you, Mary Lou, moving forward, sort of how you find EIDL's working for your membership.
Thank you. Yeah. I know that, for example, and it's been a little confusing, for example, just personally for the association, right? Because our membership is down, right, because of dues. So we were told we couldn't apply for EIDL, but I just heard of another 501c6 that did get money from EIDL. So we're going to go back in and try and reapply.
Right.
Okay.
I should also add, by the way, Mary Lou, that one other thing that we would like to see change for PPP and the 75-25. Right now, it's basically payroll, and the other half is spending it on rent and utilities. We would like to see it much more akin to what 7A loans are used for, which includes supplies and inventory. I mean, you're going to be spending a lot of money to come back online. We should relax the standards to make sure you can use the loan in a way that works for the PPP program.
Okay, and Jeannie's got a question. Will the change to special depreciation allow us to deduct on the 2019 tax year?
Is this for QUIP? And you can unmute if you need, Jeannie.
I can unmute you, hon. Hold on. Oh, I can't unmute. You got to unmute yourself. Okay.
It's a little.
Shah, can you unmute Jeannie?
There we go, Jeannie. You're unmuted.
I think I'm unmuted. Hi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good seeing you.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess the question is for special depreciation, where you were able to deduct 100% of money spent. Did that become retroactive, or is it now just going to be moving forward?
I don't know. Let me look into that, Jeannie, and I'll shoot you an email, and I'll CC Mary Lou, and she can share it with others if they have that question as well. I'll find out for you.
Thank you, Sean.
I believe it was retroactive to 2017.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Shah. Can we have clarification on restoring payroll, FTE, or full-time headcount? Oops, it just went away. 100% by June 30th? Question mark.
Yeah, it's 100% by, it's supposed to be 100% by June 30th. We are still waiting for clarification on what an FTE is for a restaurant. So that's been one of the other frustrations. Treasury is supposed to be putting out guidance this week, is the rumor, that lays out definitively what the terms are for seeing this loan forgiven. We're anxiously awaiting it. It's why we're making such a strong lobby push right now for it to be relaxed in a way that works for us. So we hope to know more about that this week, but definitely 100% by June 30th as far as the payroll part of it. And what counts as an FTE is something we're still waiting for guidance from Treasury on.
Some of these questions are specific to New Jersey, so I know, like, one was the utilities. Unfortunately, the governor's only said they can't shut off residential utilities, nothing about business. Sean, one question I know that we've talked about is, and H&LA came out with this, is the concern that there could be class action lawsuits or drive-by lawsuits saying, that people have contracted coronavirus at your restaurant or at work, and there's no real way. I know New Jersey, we're working to try and get something done, but is there any federal plans?
Yeah, Senator McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, has said he would like to see liability provisions put into phase 4 legislation. We support that. We're trying to be very nuanced in how we do it. Our focus right now is one of recovery, and then telling the public we're ready, that when we're allowed to reopen, we're excited to serve you again. We want to sort of nuance that a little bit without moving into, but we want liability protections if you get sick, because it will just be immediately spun and used against us. So we're joining other industry groups in pushing for that. We're not pushing for it directly, sorry.
No, bless you. Okay, one, just as an FYI, I just wanted to tell you, for those groups, anyway, your liquor licenses that are renewed on June 30th are pushed back until September 30th. So you should have gotten a notice from us and the ABC that you do not have to renew your liquor license until September 30th. ABC. Also, we do have you're allowed to do delivery of full bottles, and for delivery and pickup full bottles of liquor. You cannot do mixed cocktails, but there is a bill introduced, Senator Gopal, to allow that. So hoping to get that done. Let me just see if there was anything else. And again, just look for our weekly updates, where I'll be just doing some internal New Jersey specific update. We see New Jersey specifically. Okay, for New Jersey specifically, can we ensure the language broad and specifically requiring ServSafe training for COVID? Some large companies like us now use ServSafe. Is the language going to be broad enough? Yes. Oh, Nicole, hi from Darden. Hi, Nicole, I see you. Yes, no, it's not going to say ServSafe. I mean, obviously, I like to say ServSafe is the education tool, but yeah, if you have any kind of formal safety training, that will be permissible. So anything else? If not, we will let Sean. I know you have a hard stop shortly. John, just thank you so much for being on. I appreciate your leadership, and I'm sure I'll be in touch with you soon.
We just listen. We just follow your lead, Mary Lou, and no one gets hurt. It's all fine. It's like a hostage situation.
Well, thank you. You tell the rest of my family that, please.
Take care. Good luck, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And again, to reach the office, 609-599-3316, or email me at mhalverson@njrha.org. And if you have further questions for Sean, email me and I can get them over to him and his team.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.